Today, we're examining a new architecture for a continent's future, an entity designed not merely to participate in the global economy, but to fundamentally reshape the terms of engagement. We are talking about Africa's Sovereign Development Trust.
You know, the framework is introduced with this very powerful metaphor. This isn't just about economic development. It's about a monumental foundational shift in perspective, aiming for a destiny as prominent and as enduring as the continent's highest peak.
And this quote from Captain Ibrahim Traoré really grounds that majestic vision in a stark reality. It speaks to a clear, urgent imperative, the transition from dependency to dignity, from simply seeking a place at someone else's table to building a new one entirely.
So, to really understand this transformation, we'll walk through it step by step. We're going to look at why sovereignty needs to be redefined, introduce the architect of this change, examine its blueprint and operational engine, see what's happening next, and finally explore how to engage with this future.
First things first, we have to grasp the core challenge. This isn't just about economics. It is about fundamentally redefining what sovereignty means for the continent in the 21st century.
The premise here is straightforward, and it's historically accurate. For far too long, the narrative has been one of extraction and external control. The continent's wealth has, overwhelmingly, benefited those outside of it, and that has created a persistent cycle of dependency.
And that's why the crucial point is that incremental change simply isn't enough. What's being proposed here is a complete systemic overhaul, a new architecture built from the ground up with the principle of self-determination at its very core. Okay, so if a new architecture is needed, who is the architect? This brings us to the central entity behind this entire vision. Africa's Sovereign Development Trust, or ASDT. It's a sovereign entity, owned and operated by Africans, with a mandate that's really threefold: to implement a guiding charter, to drive development through non-extractive means, and ultimately to reclaim sovereignty. Now, this is where it gets incredibly strategic. This is not just an idea. It's a fully fledged proprietary ecosystem. Notice the intellectual property, the copyrights, the trademarks. ASDT is anchoring African ownership of its future by securing the IP for everything, from its defense and treaty frameworks to its aerospace and blockchain e-commerce platforms. This is the strategic how that answers that Continental call for reform. An architect of this scale, of course, requires a detailed blueprint. And for Africa's Sovereign Development Trust, that blueprint is the African Charter. It provides the foundational pillars for this continental renaissance. And what this shows is that the vision, while it is grand, is anchored in pure pragmatism. It's a comprehensive plan. It covers reclaiming resources, creating a borderless economy, a unified currency, and, crucially, the principled partnerships that will define Africa's new relationship with the rest of the world. Visionary, yes, but also very specific. So we've seen the architect and the blueprint. But how do you actually execute a plan of this magnitude? Well, that leads us to the engine of transformation, the operational core of the entire trust. You know, this is the critical question. It's what any serious stakeholder, from a Ministry of Finance to a global development institution, would ask. A grand vision is one thing, but it's meaningless without the capacity for execution. How do you manage projects, finances, and public administration across an entire continent? The answer is Omni Gaza, and it's positioned not just as some software platform, but as the central nervous system for this new era of African development. It's a system designed to integrate and manage complexity on a scale never seen before. So, the key takeaway here is its sheer capability. For anyone familiar with global finance, comparing it to BlackRock's Aladdin system immediately signals its power. This is a continental scale system built to integrate directly with state systems and with a clear trajectory toward becoming quantum-enabled. Right, so we've established the what and a how. Now let's turn to the when. The vision is moving from blueprint to action, and it all begins with a pivotal gathering. This isn't some distant dream. It's an immediate, active process. The engagement has already started with a series of high-level, closed-door events. This is about deliberate, focused collaboration with the stakeholders who are absolutely essential to bringing this vision to life. And the first major milestone is the Sandton Symposium in late 2025. Just look at the agenda. The United African Defense Force Treaty, Omni-Ganza integration, a unified currency. And the attendees, They are the key decision makers: governments, militaries, sovereign wealth funds, and development finance institutions. This is where the core components of this new architecture will be refined.
All of this brings us to the final and perhaps most important part of this explainer, the invitation to participate in writing Africa's next chapter.
So let's just summarize the key takeaways. The architect for change is Africa's Sovereign Development Trust. The engine that powers it is OmniGaza. The immediate opportunity for engagement is the Santon Symposium. And crucially, this entire initiative is not operating in a vacuum. It's bolstered by deep and solid institutional backing from partners in Europe, the Middle East, and across Africa itself. This ensures a foundation of global collaboration. And so, we're left with a provocative and, I think, essential question. A transformation of this magnitude is underway. The choice, really, is whether to observe it from the sidelines or to participate directly in its creation. For those who choose to be co-authors, the path forward is clear. Engage with the trust at ndegegroup.com. This is the beginning of a new chapter. Welcome to the African Renaissance.